So it's interesting. I have 4 questions from 4 different individuals, and it happens that they are in 4 different continents. So the question one is from Houston, North America only. The second one is from India, Asia. The third one is from Mauritius, that happens to be in Africa. And the fourth is from Europe. Okay, let's take one by one. The question one is how you see happiness, or define happiness, or what one should do to get happiness automatically. A very good, pertinent question, because that's what life is all about. Everybody wants, the bottom line is happiness. If we are doing something, even a very tedious exercise, finally we want to be feeling good. So we are here discussing happiness from a Vedic philosophy angle, in particular what uh, philosophy of Sankhya and that of Yoga by Patanjali, Sankhya is by Kapil, how they would be educating us, is it not? So I can show you something which is from Patanjali's Yoga Darshan, and that will be slightly anticlimax probably, but let's go step by step. So very first I want to show you a statement by Patanjali, and I'm just bringing it out from my, yeah. So let me share that with you so you can also read it. So this is from a second chapter. Patanjali Yoga Darshan is in 4 chapters. So second chapter is Sadhan Pad, and here he defines the last term is avidya. Avidya is ignorance in twofold sense. It can be like a child is ignorant, which is lack of knowledge, and sometimes it is wrong knowledge. So here Patanjali is specifically saying about wrong knowledge. And then he says there are 4 words on this side and followed by 4 here. These 4 are, they are paired. So anitya means is taken as nitya. Anitya means non-eternal. And if you treat a non-eternal thing as nitya, say you own a house, but this house will not be there forever, is it not? So that is an example. Ashuchi is something which is not pure, but you treat it as shuchi. And here is the pertinent parameter. Dukh, what is called pain and suffering, you treat it as sukh. Sukh is joy, pleasure, and happiness, is it not? So the reason I wanted to show you this statement of Patanjali is very simple. Patanjali considers that even when you feel you are in joy or pleasure, what is sensual happiness, so to say. So that is derived from your senses, and your mind is participating in it. So then you think you are considering it as happiness, but actually it is pain. So that is a very bold statement for him to say that so-called happiness is actually, you know, is momentarily. It is your understanding, and it is misconception. That's why he's calling it as avidya. So the very concept of joy and pain, sukh and dukh, he is negating it. He says this is not the way you should look at it. So that will be a very shock to anybody, because common man is after happiness. And if he's saying happiness is your way of considering it, actually it is pain. But you call it happiness because you are inflicted with ignorance and avidya. So that is a very bold statement, but let's try to understand him what he is saying. So the understanding is basically, as we know it, at our age we have some maturity. We know it, what we call happiness or pleasures or joys of life, they are very subjective, is it not? So from person to person, and even from the same person from time to time. In childhood, say I was excited with playing with certain toys, but they don't attract me anymore. So that was a source of happiness in my childhood, but is no more source of happiness to me, is it not? Now, as a father or as a mother of my child, say I am playing a board game with my child. I know he is a child and he has excitement when he wins the game, and he becomes, he that joy, that thrill on his face is there. But as a mother or father, I will say I don't care whether I am winning the game or am losing the game. So many a times, as a mother or father, what do? You intentionally lose the game, is it not? You intentionally lose the game so that child wins, because you want to see the joy on his face, is it not? So, but what is causing joy to him, you are not concerned about it. You are, for you it is nothing, and you are willing to give up that momentarily happiness, is it not? And for the sake of your child, because you have become more mature person now. Now that thing, the winning that board game, card game, is not that important for you. So the point we are saying is, joy, pleasure, happiness, all these are very subjective, and they also have very short lifetime. You know, after a few moments, that is gone. And here, Kapil, in his, this is Patanjali's book, Kapil makes a statement in Sankhya. Have you ever seen a happy person? Nobody is happy in the world. After all, everybody is after something. So even if he says he is happy, he is of course trying to upgrade his level of happiness. That's why he is getting into all sorts of efforts, because something is missing in him. So what is the end result of all this? This is where we want to understand, and the questioner knows it. That's why the question has been framed, that can I not automatically get happiness? And that's where the answer lies. The Patanjali uses a term that is called santosh. So let's see slightly lower part of the second chapter, because he knows that sukh and dukh have they are merely fluctuations of my mind, is it not? It is not that I am happy. It is that my mind is in a particular state, and then I think I am happy. So it is not that my inherent state has changed, but this is the statement I want to show you. This is second chapter 42, 2.42, where he brings another term called santosh. Santosh is contentment, and he's saying santoshad anuttama sukh labha. What he's saying is, there is no better sukh than santosh, that is contentment. So he is saying, rather than going after happiness, joy, pleasures of life, you should build up your inner sense of contentment. If you have developed, like I gave the example of that cardboard game, the parent is contented as far as the outcome of that game is concerned, is it not? So the winning or the losing of the game doesn't make any difference, because he is at a higher level where that fluctuation caused by the outcome of that particular board game doesn't make a difference to him, is it not? While it makes a lot of difference to the child, is it not? So what is this santosh? you know this is a contentment which is very inherent with you. So I will like to explain it, and that's where the power of meditation And not, it doesn't have to be meditation. You can also train your mind like that, is it not? But in meditation, it happens by itself. In meditation, what happens, like we discussed in a meditation session few minutes ago, even for a moment, we enter into that moment of infinite ocean. That infinite ocean is Anand. Anand is, not Sukha, Dukh. That is very super happiness kind of a thing. That is infinitely there with that Supreme Being. And when I am disconnect from my mind, even for a moment, I am I am submerged, immersed in that ocean, is it not? And then I get a taste of that. And that taste is lingers with me for long. Its lifetime is like it becomes part of me here. And that part of me is he defines my level of contentment, is it not? So more and more I do meditation, that tiny moment of I was in that lost in that infinite ocean, I have picked up a maturity of contentment, which is going to stay with me forever, is it not? Nobody can take that away. So that maturity is what gives rise to contentment. I try to explain it in simple terms. Just imagine we all have a bucket inside, in our head somewhere. It is a notional thing, a bucket of happiness, because happiness is a common term for the layperson. That bucket we start our day in the morning with that bucket is full. Now, as we go through the day, there are ups and downs, which we call joy and pain of the life experience. So, when there is a joyful experience, as if one glass of happiness has been added into my bucket. And if it is a unwanted experience, a bit sad experience, painful experience, then one glass of that liquid has been thrown out of removed from that bucket, is it not? Now, if you imagine that bucket is a very tiny bucket, say 10 liters. Now, if 1 liter is put in and 1 liter is removed, it makes 10% difference, is it not? And that can make fluctuation in you, is it? Now, in meditation, as I said, we go enter into that infinite ocean even for a moment, but then my that bucket size is increasing day to day as I am practicing meditation. Now, suppose your bucket is about 1,000 liter. Now you start your day with that bucket 1,000 liter full. Now, if 1 liter is added or removed, it doesn't make any difference to you, is it not? Because you are now a contented person. So a contented person doesn't bother to add a few liters through the day. His his bucket is very big. It is a big tankful thing. So you can look at it contentment, which is something sticks to you that is very much your property, and then you will always say, "I am fine," is it not? So when you really begin to feel I am fine, not just formally saying to somebody's question, how are you? You know, if you really feel you are always fine, then you are enlarging that bucket. And that's the answer to this question. It was a very good question. Let's look at the question number 2 now. Yeah. Question number 2. There is it's not quite a question. It is saying, please comment on heartfulness. No, I don't really know the background because the question is just these 4 words there. But I will take it as if, in meditation practice, there is a term which is very well known nowadays, what is called mindfulness. So maybe it has something to do with that. But here I would like to say that in Vedic philosophy, the term heart is a very special term, and must say there is a lot of confusion about many things, including about this term. So the original term is in Sanskrit is hit. Probably the word hit became the English word heart. Hmm? Now let's look at the word hit. Hit is hit becomes hidayam when we say hit plus ayam. Ayam means this. So hit means really the heart and soul of something, you know, and ayam means this is. So hidayam means this is the heart and soul of a system, is it not? So me as a human being, the heart and soul of me is my consciousness, that is me, my purush, so to say, or that Atma Tattva, is it not? That is the ultimate seat of consciousness. What in Upanishad is saying is a thumb in the fist. Now, this metaphor is about the Hidaya Akash. Akash is now space. So, Hit is that purush, the space where that purush is residing, somewhere in my skull, deep inside there is a cave. That cave is called Hidaya Akash. That space is Hidaya, and in that I am residing. But I am enveloped by a few layers of mind, what is called. It is one layer, but three in one layer, so to say. There are three subdivisions within one envelope, so to say. So, me and my mind, that's how I entered into my father's body, into mother's body, and then have acquired this huge body, is it not? Now, here, in spiritual dimension, in the Upanishads and in Sankhya Yoga, these are our spiritual literature in the sense where we go, which is uh, which is likely to take us beyond our mind. Mind and body are made of matter. Now when I am making some efforts to get to a point where I will be beyond the domain of matter, then we call it as a spiritual domain. Spiritual doesn't mean, what a religious place of worship and all that. Spiritual here means an inquiry beyond matter. So what is non-material, we have to give it a name. So it is a consciousness, and you can say it is my spirit, so to say. So the term heart actually refers to my soul, is it not? But that is not well understood. There is a lot of confusion. Confusion is because of the reason that this pumping heart, this on my left side of chest, that causes blood circulation and acts as a pump, is also called in Sanskrit as Hridayam. Now that etymology is different. Here the etymology is he is hired to acquire, the is for the rati to give, and here is yayati, it keeps on moving. So it is a pump that keeps on moving, and in so doing, it acquires blood from all parts of the body and sends it out at a higher pressure differential to all parts of the body. So the word hidaya also means this pumping heart, but its etymology is different. Now, I don't know exactly one who has coined this term heartfulness, what is his intention, or what is what does he mean by heart here? If it is in the context of meditation, then heart in our Vedic literature corresponds to me, that Purush who is residing here, who is the owner of body and mind, not this pumping heart. That is the meaning in anatomy, in Ayurveda, etc. So of course there is a lot of confusion. That's why there are people who will stand up for a national anthem and put their hand on the left side of chest. But this is not that. When you say I am speaking from my heart, you are not speaking from this left-sided heart. You are speaking from when you say, I speak this from my heart, you are meaning that you are speaking not just from your mind, as if you have thought it out, it comes from you deep within. Then you mean this particular heart, is it not? And that probably is the answer to this question. Okay, let me now take the third question. Third question is this is related to Agnihotra. Agnihotra is a fire ritual, but Agnihotra is coming in a broad family of what is called yajna. The question is photosynthesis a kind of Agnihotra? A very good question, because it takes us to the broad meaning of the term yajna. Agnihotra is basically a physical ritual where you create a fire and you put certain nice healthy substances, and you hope that those substances will be vaporized and will mix with the air, and that will purify the air and uh, that you are breathing in. So it's a very good exercise, and in Vedic philosophy, every householder is expected to do that. And indeed, that's the first thing they do when a young man, young woman get married. So that is this. Now here the question is photosynthesis Agnihotra? So, we have to have a clear understanding. Agnihotra is one of the yajna. Now, yajna, we have to understand, is considered as an action, a karma, where I don't expect anything in return. So that is kind of a nishkam karma, where I want to do something for the benefit of others. And in so doing, I may do it alone, individually, but when I do it in an organized manner, then it becomes yajna, is it not? So yajna is any organized effort where we want to do kind of a charity, opening a hospital, school, orphanage, all kinds of nice things. People come together and do it. All that is called as yajna. Hmm? Now, that being the case, the Supreme Being, that Supreme Consciousness, who Patanjali and Kapil call as Ishwar, all his karma are considered by definition as yajna, because he doesn't do anything for his own self. He is always in saturated state of ananda, that cannot change. There can be no change whatsoever. So he is doing everything for the benefit of us and other species and other things. And one of that is photosynthesis. So photosynthesis is his yajna, that is, he is doing it, whereby carbon dioxide is again converted into oxygen so that I can breathe. All species like us who survive on oxygen, they get back their oxygen from carbon dioxide. And also, the second thing photosynthesis does is it captures the carbon energy out of carbon dioxide, isn't it? By capturing the sunlight. So sunlight is absorbed and carbon dioxide is transformed back to oxygen, and in so doing it makes it carbohydrate, which is food for us, and we survive on that. So photosynthesis is not typically an Agnihotra, what a human being does, but it is within the grand family of yajna. All that is done for the benefit of others, and Ishwar is doing, all his actions are like that. Whatever he does, the air blows and water flows, and water gets vaporized and comes back to us as clear filtered water. So all this is his yajna karma. Water cycle, oxygen cycle, carbon cycle. So that way, yes, photosynthesis is a yajna performed by that supreme being, and in his image, we should also do some yajna. Let me move to the fourth question now, which is, please describe the concept of PanchaKosas. Very interesting question here. This is a concept in Upanishad and is very helpful, is also useful for a meditation practitioner to understand it. Let me briefly describe it. I want to show a slide first, Yeah, I have not quite given much time to it. Just quickly went to a Google setting of asking for stars and sky thing. You can focus on any of these pictures. Let's look at this one where my cursor is. This is a night sky. All stars and galaxies are seen. But I'm not here asking you to, I'm just looking at it as a model. So just imagine this is not a sky and stars. Now just treat it as there is an infinite ocean where there are, you know, when we say ocean or sky, it is a continuum. Now, within that continuum for me is now Ishwar, who is Satchidananda Swarup. So, Anand is very much integral part of that Ishwar, is it not? So, there is an infinite ocean of Ishwar, and he is all pervading, and that is also happens to be infinite ocean of Anand, so to say. Now there is a cluster of infinite particles. Now these are all localized particles. Now particles are of two kinds here. Imagine there are particles that are matter, so that exists, but it lacks consciousness. So like if there is a piece of wood, if I break it into pieces, again pieces, so at the very end, the last piece, which of course I cannot do with any knife or chisel, I have to do it, you know, in my mind notionally. So that last particle of anything is that particle here. But it lacks consciousness, is it not? Now, what we just now discussed, my consciousness, that is also a singularity, like a point, but this is not like point of a matter particle, it is a consciousness, is it not? So I am also somewhere here. So now there are infinite particles, but particles are basically of two kinds: the matter-based particles that lack consciousness, and there are other particles, they exhibit consciousness. Okay, and they are all kind of dispersed in that infinite ocean. Now it comes to me, the human beings, we are submerged in this ocean of super happiness, but we are not aware of it because we go through the fluctuations of joy and pain. Why does it happen? Because now what happens is, me, wherever I was, I am enveloped by an envelope of matter particles. So that kind of inhibits my direct contact with the ocean, you know. So I am surrounded by an envelope of, I was a tiny particle, but now it is somebody's design, and that is my bondage, that I am enveloped by a set of matter-based particles that function as what is called as my mind. And that my mind disconnects me from that infinite ocean of super happiness. So now we have three kinds of things. Me, then matter, and somehow I have been covered by that lining of matter. And then there is a super happiness who is all pervading, but somehow I am disconnect from him. Now that brings us to, you know, so this I gave you a background. This is what the whole universe is like from a Vedic philosopher's point of view. But let's go to, another diagram I want to show you. So we have some practical understanding of that PanchaKosh now. So PanchaKosh here, I am notionally describing it. through a 5-layer pyramid. The word punch means 5. Kosh means sheath or layers or envelopes. So as I just now said, that I am enveloped by mind, you know, though I am swimming in that infinite ocean of Anand. So there is a kind of Anandamaya course, which is super happiness. This is at the top level. Now we will be able to reconcile the previous stars and sky diagram with this 5-layer of pyramid in a moment. Just bear with me for a while. So there is a set of things. So in the universe, there are things of all kind, and Vedic Rishi, try to represent them using this five-fold diagram. What he's saying is, when things are just those matter-based particles, as we saw in the sky, then they are the bottommost layer. They lack consciousness, and there are so many things. Most of the man-made things are here. The phone, the glass, and the table, desk, all that thing, they lack consciousness. And if they are left alone, they will decompose and degrade with time. You know, they go through kind of a only one way timeline is just one way degradation. You know, this is one way to look at it. This is matter based things in the universe. Now there are things which are so this is like a bundle now. So the level 1 things have only one layer. Now level 2 things have two layers, the lowest one and the second one. So matter is always there. As I said, we are also enveloped by a mind domain that is made of matter. So we are always connected to matter. Now the second level things, the example I will give is that of plants and trees. So they have some sort of life force. They are natural things. That's why I highlighted most of the man-made things are here, but natural things are here, somewhere here. So there is a cyclic thing happening. Like we just now discussed, the photosynthesis. So the leaves are breathing, say, carbon dioxide and giving away oxygen in the daytime, and in the night something else is happening. And there is a larger cycle. In the months of autumn, the leaves are falling, but in the spring, the new leaves are coming, and then next year the same thing. So this is not one way diagram. This is cyclic things happening. When cyclic things are happening, the nature is more involved in it, taking care of it. So that is called as, these things such as plants and trees are twofold. They have two kosas, so to say. They have the matter, plus they have the life force, so to say, is it not? Now comes the animals and birds and marine species, fishes and all that, who exhibit consciousness, in the sense they also experience through joy and pain of life, is it not? So that is a third factor here. But they are also having a respiratory system. They also have body that is a bulk of matter. So now this is a bundle of 3 layers. So this third layer we call it as Manomaya course, where at one part of mind is there, you know, which is able to feel the joy and pain of experience. But here what is lacking is they don't have the intellectual discriminatory ability. In other words, they are more or less programmed species. They live a pattern of life that their ancestors were also living, like a particular bird makes its nest in a manner that its ancestors made 500 years ago, is it not? So there is a kind of static behavior, and it just happens like this. Somewhere their mind has been programmed, and they just follow that program. They are more instinctively, very less kind of intellectual behavior. Now comes human beings. Human beings have the bundle of four layers we are born with. So we have an intellectual discriminating ability. We are programmed much less, only survival instinct and very essential instincts. Otherwise, we are left in open field and we think and decide, is it not? So this is our superior mind, if you can say. So this is another facet of our mind, that is our discriminatory ability. So our mind is, the animal's mind plus something more than that. Now, there is this punch course description is kind of motivating us. This is what we have discussed even in today's meditation session. Just now when I was answering the question number one today, just getting immersed in that infinite ocean, even for a moment, So that is ocean was super happiness, anand, and animals and birds, they are not concerned with that. They go through the typical joy and pains of life, but we are motivated that why don't we do something? And what is this? This is nothing but a replica of our deep, dreamless sleep, which we all are familiar with, is it not? So Kapil is going one step further. He is saying just like you experience Sushupti, you can experience this also, provided you can make your mind absolutely inactive. That's what the challenge is. So Patanjali writes the book Yoga Chittavitti Niyodha so that I can be with him. And being with him is that union. That's what yoga is all about. So Panchakos description is very interesting. It helps us look at the universe in a particular manner, that yes, we are born with the four layers, but I am capable of, every human being is capable of adding another layer and becoming a complete human being as depicted in this pyramid, five layers. So that was answer to the four questions that we thought we should start with. Now let's see, we can make the forum open. I have some supplementary question. Let's see. Aditya Hridayam of Ramayana, from the core of our being. Yeah, that is saying the same thing about Aditya, is that which is, you know, Dvitva is dividing something into two. Aditya is what is indivisible into two. That's what is my consciousness. And also that is Aditya is also the sun, which is, you know, swapakash. It has its own light. It doesn't reflect any other light like moon does it, is it not? So what we are told is that soul of mine itself is throwing that light of consciousness. That's what make me a conscious human being, is it not? I am talking, I am waving my hands, and when that goes away, this is a dead body. It's a lot of difference between a living human being and a dead body, and that difference comes because of that tiny light of consciousness. So, Aditya Hidayam. So, the gentleman must have seen this term in a book called Ramayana, and that's what it is. So, as I said, the word Hidaya has been caused confusion in many people's mind, but this is the instance. Hidaya is this soul here. Any other question will be most welcome. We have some more time.
Namaskar, sir.
Namaste, namaste.
I think the kind of dose you have offered today, one should not listen to anything, rather go through it 5-6 times. It has been so wonderful, and I had few questions. I said, no, I mean, first let's get this recorded, and then you will be putting it up in on your website by tomorrow.
Yeah, definitely.
You have spoken enough, but
Thank you.
if
Thank
you
you.
still want to say something, there was a thought that crossed my mind a few days back, although I was keeping very tight, but this I'm sure you would have touched upon it. Some part in our body known as what you call Kundalini, and then Ida, Pingla, and all those Sahasrara and Swasna. So does Patanjali, Kapil, they also touch on this? And I mean, these Ida and Pingla and Sushumna and Sahasrara, they do exist. And Kundalini concept, does it really, do we really need to know it, or just, to achieve everything that I've learned from you is just keep doing meditation and a lot of things will keep happening even without knowing. So, but Kundalini is something that people try and focus on, awakening it and something like that. So I thought I'll just ask you if you could highlight or say something about it.
Well, I have heard these terms, Ida-Pingala and Sushumna and Kundalini, but I haven't come across them in the literature that I have gone through,
Okay,
the Sankhya, Yoga, and Upanishads that are considered as literature of Upasana and meditation, etc. I haven't quite come across these terms.
okay.
I am not even aware of their meanings.
I think
If I come across, I will try myself to understand it.
Yeah.
But I must say I am ignorant about it. I
Mhm.
cannot comment really. I'm not aware of it.
I think Kundalini is from Hatha Yoga.
Maybe, yeah.
I think when I studied Hatha Yoga, they view Kundalini as almost what we're trying to do through meditation practice to achieve that kind of blissful sensation and closeness to the higher consciousness, if you like. I think the equivalent in Hatha Yoga is to, as you say, try to focus on your Kundalini, and imagine this Kundalini is some kind of powerful energy that only advanced practitioners of Hatha Yoga can actually cultivate and realize. And then when you get to that stage, I think that's the equivalent. That's their equivalent of meditation, reaching a kind of blissful stage. So that's my brief understanding. Because I've studied Patanjali Yoga with Dr. Chandra. I've studied Hatha Yoga, which is more in the kind of exercise context, but they have a lot of the theory comes from, if I understand it correctly, from the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, which is the kind of the texts of Hatha Yoga, I think.
Okay.
I think they explore a lot of the concepts that you've touched on in your question. And I think the question then is, to what extent are these two things, these two systems, Hatha Yoga, Patanjali Yoga, and the Vedas, and Samkhya philosophy, to what extent are they two separate systems, or do they overlap? And if they overlap, how much do they overlap? And some of the concepts, I think, are just expressed in different ways and different terminologies. But I think the key question, I think, is, as you said, if you're practicing meditation, that's the pathway specified, by Patanjali. In the Hatha Yoga system, for Kundalini, you're following some kind of different pathway, potentially revolving around exercise and other kind of ritualistic practices. And I suppose you can probably draw some very good parallels between them. And ultimately, if they get you to a particular position, which is the contentedness that we talked about at the start, then I guess, does it matter if you go this way or this way? If both ways end up here, and one way might work better with one person, with one way or another. I think it just then comes down to how much do you want to really focus on the detail of understanding where it comes from and what's the actual end, what's the end game. Whichever way you try to get there, you know, what is your end game? What's the desirable end game? Because I think it should be the same under any system. But how you get there, I think it's a question of, if you're doing one thing, are you appreciating where that comes from, and is it complete, versus other ways of getting there as well. So
all roads lead to God, but what our guru says, that's the shortest.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's, you know, it's, as somebody who's seen the different sides, I can say the Patanjali methodology and Samkhya philosophy seems to me to be it's more scientific.
Oh yes,
it's
yes.
more clear.
This
I
was
think the idea of following Hatha philosophy seems to have a lot more ritualistic aspect to it, and almost kind of religious aspect to it. It doesn't necessarily seem to be based in as much science. Having said that, all roads, as you say, if it gets you to a good place.
Yeah, but Kapil, Patanjali, I mean, I just wanted to know whether they have covered this point, because you know there are few arts like Reiki and all where they try and awaken this inbuilt power, which Greeks actually they found it thousands of millions of years back, Kundalini, and then some yogis in India as well. So I was not aware whether Kapil and Patanjali, they do recognize or they do touch about it. So the question was just to know about it. I don't follow that. But yeah, I have heard, I met some people who do on that. But I follow what Dr. Chandra says, actually. Thank you, sir.
Well, very good discussion we have had.
No, I think you today.
We have covered, I think, 5 issues in 50 minutes.
Oh.
Quite following the time frame also. If there is another issue, we can discuss in remaining time. Otherwise, it has been a
Fantastic
session.
Just load it. Don't forget it. I will have to go through many times, actually. Today's session was, that heart one was, I'm very fond of reading and listening to, but this was so freshening, to think, this Hriday and heart difference was, I think, is phenomenal. I think you should speak more on it someday when there are not many questions, maybe half an hour.
Well, I think...
yeah, separately. I mean, the day you don't have many questions, I think same thing in more. I think this is so awakening. I'll tell you, even people involved in this, I mean, I'm involved in this, I would say, for last 10 years, but I've never heard such things, what you picked up today.
Indeed, in the classical India, if you remember, and nowadays it is valued. Nowadays, because of the current pandemic, we are avoiding hugging and kissing, etc. Is it not?
Yeah.
So the Indian method of namaste from a distance is also working, looking attractive. But if you are aware of, in a long time, like in ancient times, a parent or when there is a generational gap, if you meet your child, then they used to smell on the head,
My God, yeah.
Smelling the head region rather than kissing it.
Mm.
You meet your child, you didn't kiss him, you smell at his head region, So that has something to do with Hridayam here,
Mm-hmm.
Here.
So this is very interesting. I think.
But nowadays, the lay person, everybody says touches his left side. I am saying from my heart, He doesn't know where his heart is actually.
Until today,
It is just a mechanical pump, really.
no, I think will push you to spend more time whenever you feel like we don't have many questions. At least 30 minutes.
Yeah, we can look at the particular instances in Upanishads. That's why they call it Hridaya Granthi. You know, the knot is here
Uh,
where I have been tied up with my buddhi, That is
uh,
what. And then they say in Mukti, what happens? That Hridaya Granthi, that knot will open out.
mm.
So that's where me and my mind are together. So let's hear from Inigo. He said,
Yeah, I
what
was just
did he
gonna
say?
say from an anatomical perspective, um, I'm pretty sure that I think I'm right when I say this, that when a baby starts to form, um, the fertilized egg starts to multiply out into the different parts of the body. That initial piece of matter is very much in the center of the brain, and then everything else kind of comes away from that, if you like. So, and I think, I don't know if scientists can probe that deeply yet on a live person to kind of test what's really inside the brain. But it's interesting because when I read this book on anatomy and it showed this, and it was almost like this very special region. I forget the name of it. It probably will have a scientific name, I'm sure. The very special region in the center of the brain, and then the rest of the body kind of grows out away from that and envelops it. It very much fits in with the philosophy that we're hearing. So yeah, it's very interesting that even the science
Yeah, that's really
kind of ties in.
very good contribution from Inigo. Very good comment. Yeah, that's
Very interesting to know this.
actually, yeah. Actually, come to think of it, what the modern scientists are saying and what Vedic scientists or Vedic rishis, there's not much of a difference. From mainstream neuroscientist point of view, the brain uh, is the place or is the seat of mind as well as consciousness. You know, but Vedic Rishi is saying it is not the brain only; it is inside the brain. There is a small cave. So there is a lot of course, one could say there is a difference in opinion, but there is I see 95% is common.
Yeah, yeah.
There is a slight difference whether, and that's where, brain becomes a bit complex thing because this becomes our non-voluntary function. So that takes us to prana, you know, like respiratory system and cardiac system, etc. And when it comes to prana, scientists will say nature does it, but we will say, nature is embodiment of Ishwar, so we'll
Oh,
say
yeah.
Ishwar does it. So, it is just slight semantic difference. Otherwise, to me, it looks like we are more or less on the same line. There is a slight difference towards the end of the journey. Very interesting.
The interpreters normally, is a different language, or the interpretations are otherwise base things are our Vedic things. I mean, they really encompass everything, and then they are so good or complex that to understand them and to take out the real meaning and then understand, grasp, and then explain it to the people. And in that process of coding and decoding, a lot of things have gone here and there. So that has been the thing. But you have studied so hard that, for any question you refer to lines, which is so scientific. It's not that you just read a book and formed your opinion. No, it's all based on facts. It's written. So that's the difference. The interpreters have done some damage.
Yeah, it has. Yeah, there is not much of a difference between what scientists and Vedic rishis are saying, but I think they will converge in not too distant in future.